Many of us think of ourselves as, upstanding citizens that, we're never going to be in a situation where we're suspected of anything.
I think it's really important to help the individuals that are the most vulnerable in our society because I think it speaks to who we are as a country.
Every decade, every generation has had to answer that question of how do we address the civil liberties issues of our day. My name is Abdi Soltani. I'm a graduate of Stanford from 1995, and now I serve as the executive director of the ACLU of Northern California. The ACLU's mission is really to protect the fundamental rights guaranteed to every American in the United States Constitution and in the Bill of Rights. And over time, what we found is that those rights are most often at risk when it's a group that's unpopular, whether it's immigrants or poor people. In the 1940s, the ACLU defended the Japanese Americans who were sent to internment camps. In the 1960s, we were a major part of the civil rights movement. The ACLU has been involved in expanding equal protection under the law for lesbians and gays. One of the major frontiers right now in the age of internet, the question of how do we protect people's civil liberties in that new environment. While things will always pop up that require new organizations, there also have to be some enduring institutions that can really see things through.
My family and I actually immigrated to the United States in 1979 from Iran. Coming from an authoritarian regime when I was a youngster, I can really appreciate what it's like to live in a country where you don't feel free. The United States is very far away from that, but it's only because there are people constantly working to make sure that everyone's rights are respected. I graduated Stanford and I really thought that it would be either nonprofit, government, or international non-governmental organization, which is where I'd end up. I did a very quick stint at Debevoise as a summer and ended up doing fascinating work. These are the quills from the Supreme Court that counsel who appear in the Supreme Court at counsel table get. Right after September 11th, when everyone was scared, about 1,200 immigrants of Muslim and Middle Eastern origin had been rounded up by the government. When I first met Benamar, he's an Algerian national. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time in a very bad way. A couple days before September 11th, he crossed the border into Canada, and there he was detained. And Benamar describes it was a cold, dark night that was raining, and he was escorted to a plane, put on a plane, it was just him, and transferred into detention in Brooklyn. What ended up happening is that we took his case to the UN working group, and we won there. While we were representing him, there were a few articles, and then there was a flurry once he was released. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that I wouldn't have gone to law school, I wouldn't have decided to focus on human rights in a big New York law firm if it hadn't been for my experience at Stanford. The Haas Center provided a very natural community for me of like-minded people.
The allegations are that I lived in the Haas Center, but there's no proof to support that claim. Much of what we got out of the Haas Center was through the formal programs, but a lot of it was in conversations in the hallways or having people to bounce ideas off of. I'm reminded of something that John Gardner talks about. It's the idea that we have rights, but also responsibilities. So that's always stayed with me. And we need to have a society in which people understand their rights, but also where they exercise their responsibilities and really serve as active citizens.
Our world needs more people committed to public service.
Our world needs more organizers.
More imagination and creativity for problem solving.
Hope. More engaged citizens.
Caring about others and trying to think outside oneself.
Our world needs more people who are willing to sacrifice for others.